morning, evening, or night, wherever you are. Welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time. As we wrap up Monday, 21st July 2025, let's see what stories are unfolding around us. China is working to resolve economic issues by addressing price wars and overcapacity. The government aims to stimulate consumer demand and encourage innovation to counter excessive competition. Shenzhen-based Uptech Robotics plans to raise around $2.41 billion via a Hong Kong share placement. Unitree Robotics has filed pre-IPO documents reflecting a move toward commercializing robotics. Oz Electric has also filed for a Hong Kong IPO. China's AI sector is growing, with Huawei becoming a major player. Despite U.S. restrictions, and Chinese AI models are ranking highly among open-source options. Concerns are growing among foreign businesses after a Wells Fargo banker and a U.S. government employee were prevented from leaving China. China's exports of rare earth magnets to the U.S. increased sixfold in June compared to May after trade talks. Rare earth mineral shipments rebounded in June, with permanent magnets sent to the EU reaching a yearly high. Nvidia can again sell H20 chips to China after previous export restrictions. China has condemned EU sanctions on 2 Chinese banks and will protect Chinese companies' interests ahead of a leaders' summit. President Xi Jinping will meet with EU's von der Leyen and Costa to Construction has started on what will be the world's largest hydropower dam. Russia faces a complex situation marked by international sanctions, military actions, and economic maneuvering. The EU has levied new, extensive sanctions against Russia, targeting entities like a Russian-owned oil refinery in India, measures which are purportedly causing an economic downturn across Europe. Despite international pressure, the Kremlin admits to growing tensions in its relationship with Azerbaijan. Turning to the battlefield, Russia launched a significant aerial assault on Kyiv prior to discussions on weapons support for Ukraine, reaffirming its commitment to achieving its objectives in the country. Russia asserts it has intercepted 142 Ukrainian drones, including 27 targeting the Moscow region. Additionally, Russia claims to have struck a supplied Patriot missile systems within Ukraine, while Moscow itself has faced drone and missile attacks. Russian state media is showcasing teenagers allegedly working in the world's biggest drone factory, producing weaponry destined for the conflict in Ukraine. Reports suggest Putin is recruiting individuals from vulnerable populations, including criminals, homeless people, and football hooligans, for a potentially expendable army, and a father who relocated his family to Russia seeking to escape perceived woke ideologies in America has been conscripted and sent to the front lines. Economically, Russia has significantly increased its precious metals exports to China, nearly doubling them in 2025. Russia's Sberbank is planning to introduce Bitcoin and cryptocurrency custody services. The Russian stock market, MOEX, is exhibiting price volatility across various sectors. While Russia expresses interest in another round of peace negotiations with Ukraine, it also emphasizes the significant differences that remain between the two nations. In the United States, Donald Trump is considering using tariffs as a policy tool in a manner similar to sanctions. However, rising U.S. inflation and potential retaliatory measures could make traditional sanctions a more appealing option. Gold prices are holding steady near a one-month high due to investor caution ahead of President Trump's tariff deadline on August 1. In a separate matter, over 5.2 million above-ground swimming pools, sold in the U.S. and Canada since 2002, are being recalled following reports of 9 deaths. Ukraine continues to grapple with the ongoing military conflict initiated by Russia, including major aerial attacks on its capital, Kyiv. Russia remains steadfast in its goal of achieving its objectives within Ukraine, despite persistent resistance. Russia claims to have downed 142 Ukrainian drones, including 27 over the Moscow region. Russia also claims to have hit or supplied Patriot systems in Ukraine, while Moscow has been targeted with drones and missiles. Despite the ongoing hostilities, Russia states it is open to further peace talks with Ukraine, while acknowledging the substantial disagreements that persist. Across the European Union, fresh sanctions have been imposed on Russia, including measures targeting a Russian-owned oil refinery in India. Paradoxically, these sanctions are allegedly contributing to an economic crisis within Europe itself. China has seen a significant increase in precious metals imports from Russia, nearly doubling in 2025. In Canada, along with the US, over 5.2 million above-ground swimming pools, sold since 2002, are being recalled due to safety concerns linked to 9 deaths. Finally, the Kremlin has acknowledged increasing strain in the relationship between Russia and Azerbaijan. India's stock market is set for a positive start, with Gift Nifty trading around 25,184. HDFC and ICICI banks are boosting India's stock benchmarks, but gains are limited by reliance. The India VIX is at a 15-month low, signaling market stability and low volatility. Jane Street can resume trading in India after depositing $567 following a SEBI ban. India's IPO market anticipates raising $30 in the next year, according to a leading arranger. Small investors are increasingly drawn to India's stock market, seeking better returns. India intends to allow sugar exports in the next season to manage potential surpluses. Data shows a slight increase in India's Russian oil imports from January to June. India Cements is down 5% after reporting a year-over-year net loss, in contrast to the prior year's profit. Caltech's software division has partnered with a Swiss network in India. Market experts are recommending stocks like SJVN, Lloyd's Enterprises, Andhra Paper, Morgan Laboratories, and South Indian Bank for investors looking for shares under Yoko 100. Additional stock picks for July 22 include choices from Raja Venkatraman, Ankush Bai, TradeBrains Portal, and MarketSmith India. Yendang Electronics is a leader in the growing market for affordable and sustainable technology, but the industry needs standardized regulations. Saudi Arabia's economic landscape is a blend of ambitious growth and strategic recalibration. Vision 2030 is spurring major investments, particularly in the in vitro diagnostics (IVD) market, projected for significant expansion. The kingdom is reassessing its megaprojects, including the $500 billion The Line, to ensure financial prudence. Despite these adjustments, crude exports hit a 3-month peak in May, and Saudi National Bank, SNB, reported a 17% rise in second-quarter profit. Foreign startup registrations have surged by 118%. Dow. Aqua Power is boosting diversification by supplying clean energy to Europe. Alfutain is set to acquire a 49.95% stake in Sonomi Retail, injecting $666 million to the retail sector. Taiwan. The nation mourned the loss of Prince Alwaleed bin Khalid, who passed away after 2 decades in a coma and was buried in Riyadh. At the G20 summit, the Saudi finance minister called for urgent global trade system reforms. United Kingdom. WHAM. The UK is deepening its ties with OpenAI through a new strategic partnership. This collaboration will foster joint AI security research. The UK is also contemplating investing in AI infrastructure. John Cunliffe, former Bank of England Deputy Governor, suggested dismantling of WHAM. He proposed consolidating its duties with 3 other bodies into a single powerful regulator. Potential 30% tariffs on the EU by President Trump could shift business focus to the UK. Ukraine and Russia Ukraine's President Zelensky has proposed renewed peace negotiations with Russia and Turkey. This follows a period of heightened missile attacks from Moscow. Kyiv has increased its offensive actions, targeting Moscow. Armenia has rejected Russia's request to extradite a Russian soldier. The soldier had refused to participate in the conflict in Ukraine. Global markets are showing positive momentum, especially in Europe and Asia, driven by strong performance in U.S. stocks, which have risen for the third week running. Asian stock markets are generally up, spurred by Wall Street's rally and optimism about tariff talks and corporate earnings. TSMC, a major chip manufacturer, now has a valuation exceeding $1 trillion, making it a key stock to watch. Kyiv Financial Holding has expanded its reach by opening its first overseas bank branch in Hong Kong, a strategic move to support its growing cross-border business. The United States, under President Donald Trump, is prioritizing the reduction of trade imbalances with Asian nations, suggesting that new trade measures may be implemented soon. Australia's stock market saw a fluctuating performance, driven by early gains in mining and gold, with insignia boosted by acquisition news. Trade concerns and potential EU tariffs later dampened market enthusiasm. South32 announced a 19% production rise in its Chilean project for fiscal Q4. Australia will begin releasing a comprehensive monthly CPI report in November, offering more timely inflation insights. These new monthly reports will have implications for investors in 2025 and 26. In response to a southern algal bloom crisis, Australia has allocated funds to mitigate the environmental impact. A mandatory merger control system is now in effect. New ASIC regulations in 2025 will bring in new derivative transaction reports, affecting forex tax procedures. European markets are showing a mixed performance, influenced by trade uncertainties and earnings. Small-cap stocks are currently outperforming larger ones. Ryanair announced a significant profit increase of 128%. Ongoing trade discussions and potential EU tariff countermeasures are impacting investor sentiment. Stephen Yu suggests that defense stocks may have already peaked. South Korea is actively managing its economic strategies amidst ongoing trade negotiations and domestic market shifts. The Kospi saw a slight rise of 0.1%, while the tech-focused Kosdaq increased by 0.7%. Despite concerns about U.S. tariffs, exports have grown by 4.1%. To tackle these trade challenges, South Korea's finance minister and trade envoy will meet with U.S. officials this Friday to discuss U.S. tariffs. The agricultural sector is closely watching these negotiations, focusing on both food sovereignty and potential investment. In finance, cryptocurrency exchanges Upbit and by Thumb delisted Strike token on August 24. The athleisure market is expanding, highlighted by Alo Yoga's new flagship store in Seoul. Japan's ruling coalition under Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba has lost its upper house majority, but Ishiba intends to stay in power. This election result casts doubt on the Bank of Japan's future policies. Moody's says any sales tax cuts impact on Japan's credit rating hinges on its size and duration. Despite political upheaval, Japanese markets are stable, with steady shares and a rising yen, though Japanese bonds remain at risk given Ishiba's leadership. Right-wing parties' gains could also unsettle global investors. In a separate development, the Japanese firm Sumitomo is supporting strategic fluorite projects in Australia. Turning to Australia, Sumitomo's backing of strategic fluorite projects marks a significant investment. Taiwan is seeing robust economic activity, highlighted by Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing's ENC entry into the $1 billion bill club, signaling strong financial health. Despite this, the Taiwan stock market faced a downturn, even as AI and biotech sectors demonstrated resilience. TSMC shares specifically saw a decrease, marking a period of market adjustment. Simultaneously, trade discussions with the U.S. are progressing, with continued negotiations slated for the upcoming week. In its commitment to environmental sustainability, Taiwan is witnessing a collaboration between Amogy and Green Harvest to introduce ammonia-to-power technology, focusing on industrial uses. Moreover, a trend is emerging among Taiwanese tech companies to scale back operations in China, prompted by growing cyber threats and broader security considerations. To improve healthcare access, Senra Healthcare and Dr. Reddy's are deepening their strategic alliance to broaden the availability of pharmaceutical products in Taiwan. South Africa's financial markets responded positively after the G20 finance meeting concluded with a released communique, stabilizing the rand amid inflation concerns. However, cracks are showing within the ruling coalition after a trade envoy's planned U.S. visit fell through. In the legal arena, a South African court rejected a request to pardon those implicated in the state capture scandal. Turning to technology, Honor is set to introduce its Magic V5 smartphone, hoping to disrupt the South African market. Adding to the tech landscape, a former CEO from the banking sector has launched 2 billion rand tech ventures. The United States has seen Sarepta Therapeutics pausing Elevity's gene therapy shipments after a muscular dystrophy patient's death following a different experimental treatment. President Trump recently signed the Genius Act into law, aiming to regulate stablecoins. Adding to the financial landscape, the Ether machine is poised to begin trading on the Nasdaq through a merger with Dynamics Corporation, marking a significant development in the cryptocurrency market. Brazil faces potential economic turbulence following President Trump's proposal of a 50% tariff on all goods imported into the United States. This announcement has already sparked an investigation within Brazil, focusing on potential insider trading related to the tariff news. The implications extend beyond Brazil, with a U.S. small business filing a lawsuit citing concerns about price hikes for American consumers. The U.S. coffee industry is particularly worried about the potential impact of these tariffs. Argentina's economic activity saw a decline in May, continuing a trend observed earlier in the year. Turning to Canada, the S&P TSX Composite Index experienced a slight increase. Car manufacturer Stellantis, facing substantial losses, previously suspended production at its Mexican and Canadian facilities in anticipation of tariffs, potentially leading to price increases. In France, regulatory scrutiny of tech companies continues, exemplified by the ongoing investigation into X. Simultaneously, new EU regulations have created opportunities for night train operators to submit bids. Separately, a concert featuring conductor Valery Gergiev, known for his pro-Putin stance, was cancelled in Italy following public outcry. Germany is poised to receive substantial investments from numerous companies over the next 3 years. However, a proposal mandating electric vehicle purchases for car rental companies is facing criticism from within Germany. Iran is grappling with an extreme heat wave, prompting the government to shut down offices, banks, and businesses in Tehran for a day. Iraq is facing potential fiscal difficulties due to a downturn in oil prices. Kenyan investors can now invest in global stocks through the Satrix World ETF, newly listed on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Malaysia is pursuing a financial levy from former U.S. President Donald Trump, while simultaneously pushing back against U.S. requirements concerning electric vehicles and foreign ownership policies. Singapore's currency is seen as potentially gaining prominence, perhaps approaching the stature of the Swiss franc. Moreover, Singapore is collaborating with JP Morgan and other entities to bolster its stock market performance. The United Kingdom has enacted sanctions targeting a large number of tankers involved in Russia's shadow fleet. And that's a wrap for today's news, because even headlines need a nap. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the noise fade as you find your quiet. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time on WHAM Today.